Sarah Brock, Charles Berger, John Creasher, Nick Kasher, Pat McKee,
Yes.
Corey Sillers.
Yep.
Lance Trollope.
Here.
Yao Yang.
Here.
Jim Boucher.
And please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Everyone, thank you so much for allowing me to be here.
Hit the button.
Are we good?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. So thank you so much for the chance to come and to share a little bit about the art department. This is my second year being the art coordinator for the school district, and it has been a phenomenal team to work together. So want to talk, when I started with the group, we really identified our 3-year goals as a department. Where do we want to go and move in the next 3 years? And so I wanted to share with you 2 artifacts of some of the things that we've worked on together, and then give the department a special shout out at the end. So in a nutshell, our 3-year goals of where we wanted to move as an art department really came down to these 3 big ideas. Number 1, amplifying art's reach. When we looked at students taking art over the last 5 years, there's been a little bit of a decline. So we want to work on increasing the reach of art in our classrooms and our schools because we see the value of it. We also really wanted to work on shared skill experiences, kindergarten through 12th grade. Sometimes secondary would notice that when students came from different elementary schools, they came with different experiences. And while the flexibility is so important as an educator, also making sure that there's some shared experiences that all students have in order to hit the ground running when they move together in a building. And then with that, meaningful vertical alignment between grade levels. So what does printmaking look like in kindergarten up to 3rd grade? And then how does that translate over to the middle school? So being able to have those opportunities as a department. One of the big things that we did last year, which we've continued on the work this year, is we created an art continuum task force. And it had myself on the team, 3 elementary art educators, 2 middle school educators, and 2 high school art educators. And we came together around our art standards and identified the priority standards for each grade level and each elementary, middle, and high school category through using, if you go to the next slide, real criteria. So we came together as a team and we really identified what are going to be those shared experiences that students have. And that's really hit the ground running with some of our goals. If you continue on to the next step, so some of the outcomes is really having the prioritization of skills for all of the levels to really encourage that consistency, but also honor teacher flexibility. So not every single art classroom is lockstep doing the same thing, but we're looking towards the same outcomes. A key standard in kindergarten is for kids to understand primary colors. How the teachers get to primary colors is at their discretion, but identifying those key focus standards. And then it's really given us the ability to see gaps and opportunities for improvement within our art programming, including sending some of the teachers to take classes at CVA, which has been an amazing connection that we've had as a department. We also have embarked in a book study together as an art department, and this is a famous book, Sydney Walker. She has a book about teaching meaning in art making. We really wanted to come around this idea as a department. How are we teaching students to make meaning in their art in the different techniques that we teach them? And so this has been really a win because it's given art educators professional development to their content area. And it's really given us a cool opportunity to talk shop at each PD day. How does this learning relate to our classroom, and how can we continue to move that forward? So like I said, it's really created opportunities for teachers to share the tips and tricks. Our secondary art educators are always excited to hear the different management strategies that elementary teachers use with different materials and things. And the book study has really opened up that door for that type of collaboration. It's also really encouraged our thinking around the process of art making, which has been really influential for our departments. So I wanted to just share a little snapshot of our work together. I also encouraged our team to tune into this virtually so that I could tell them thank you so much for the amazing work that they do. I love this quote that before a child can make art, they have to believe that their perspective matters. And our art teachers really convince kids that it does. And so they are doing great things in their classrooms, and they're so committed to their craft. So thank you, team. Any questions?
Thank you. Questions, board members, comments?
I don't know. The only comment I have, I'm glad to hear that you want to create some things that are the same that they have to experience. So when they become sixth graders, they can be more cohesive and as they move forward and decide if art's their thing. So I remember. I assume we'd still probably do some district-wide things or something with birds that my daughter was in way back in 5th grade and
Yes.
things like that. And she got selected to go to the library, I think was a display one evening. And so,
Absolutely.
great. Sounds like excellent ideas from the team.
Yeah, we have really established some amazing community connections. In fact, next year we're going to be partnering with Lee Yawkey Museum to give our art educators some opportunities to be makers of art, to help encourage them to inspire students to be makers of art, because we've really talked about it's so important that we're doing art ourselves. So thank you. It's been great.
I love the meaningful community and connections. That's just beautiful.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, we have public and student comment, if any. There are none, so we'll move on then to the consent agenda.
Yes, I'm sorry, there's the written one that we don't have? Can you do anything with that?
No, we don't. There is a way for people to submit a written comment, but it's not something that we have to read it during the meeting or anything like that. I would actually encourage people to email us rather than using that, but it is there on the website if you want to. So moving on then to the consent agenda, which may include appointments, additional staff, replacement staff, contract increases, separations, resignations, contract decreases, terminations, leaves of absence, retirements, minutes of the regular session of May 11th, 2026, and special session of May 18th, 2026, payment of bills, budget status, and investment report, and donations to the district from CW Flybags, Hub Central Collision, King Buffet of Wausau, Lee Insurance, Peace United Church of Christ, Fred Prain, Safe Kids of Marathon County Coalition, Wausau Breakfast Optimist Club, ENT and Allergy Associates, and Cloverbelt Credit Union. I'm seeking a motion to approve the consent agenda with great gratitude for donations to the district.
So moved.
Second.
We have a first and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion carries. Next, we'll move on to 7 motions that we have that I'll go through fairly quickly because they all come to us from the Committee of the Whole, where we've already discussed them. First up is the recommendation for preliminary 2026-27 budget. At the May committee meeting, Elizabeth Channel, Assistant Superintendent of Operations, presented the preliminary budget for 2026-27, and I'm seeking approval of the initial budget as presented in order to proceed with the 2026-27 expenditures before final budgets are approved.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. At the May committee meeting, Tabitha Gundrum shared the employee handbook updates for 2026-27 school year for review and approval. And I'm seeking a motion to approve the recommended changes to the 2026-27 employee handbook language.
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments from board members? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion carries. Next is the paid meal price update. At the May committee meeting, Karen Fox presented the proposed changes to the 2026-27 paid meal prices. I'm seeking a motion for approval of the proposed changes to the meal prices as presented.
So moved.
questions or comments on that one? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion carries. Next is the Activities and Athletics Code. At the May Committee meeting, Dr. John Tomsky and B.J. Brandt presented the suggested changes to the Athletic and Activities Code. I'm seeking a motion for approval of the revised Athletics and Activities Code.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. At the May Committee meeting, Dr. John Tomsky presented a proposed change to Policy 9270, home-based private or tribal schooling. I'm seeking a motion for approval of the proposed changes to Policy 9270.
So moved.
Second.
Questions on that one? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. At the May Committee meeting, Dr. John Tomsky presented the proposed changes to Policy 2431.01, High School Activities Code. I'm seeking a motion for approval of the proposed changes to Policy 2431.01.
So moved.
Second.
Questions on that one? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion carries. At the May Committee meeting, Ryan Urmansky, Director of Buildings and Grounds, presented the Riverview HVAC and roofing project. And I'm seeking a motion for approval to move forward with Myron Construction Corporation Incorporated as the general contractor for the Riverview HVAC and roofing project.
So moved.
Any questions on that motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Next, we have a new topic, well, new this year, but not new to us in general. So Elizabeth Channel and the PMA team will present the 2026-27 debt defeasance strategy for adoption by the board. Official defeasance adoption language is provided by Quarles and Brady.
Good evening, everyone. I have Eric Cass from PMA here to do the defeasance presentation for us. As Lance shared, this is something we do every year. We're talking about how we can prepay any debt down so that we can have some relief on our community. So I'll hand it over to Eric.
Yeah, good evening, and thank you, Elizabeth, for that introduction. A lot of familiar faces. Eric Cass, Director of Public Finance at PMA. Pleasure to be here this evening. Just very high level, going to run through a little bit of history. As Elizabeth said, this is not the first time that the Board of Education has entertained the idea of defeasing debt, which is really just putting money into escrow, and I'll explain a little bit about that process as we go through this. So the first slide, like I said, is the history. So dating back to 2017-18, there's been various amounts applied. So these amounts, just to highlight very quickly for those that maybe haven't gone through this in the past, are additional levy amounts that are only available to pay down debt early. Unfortunately, there's no flexibility to use these additional levy amounts to support programs and services or do anything different. They're only targeted at paying down debt early. So every year you can see funds applied, the net debt service reduction, and then to date, without the action being considered this evening, the school district has saved almost $19.6 million of long-term interest by the strategy of managing the levy and utilizing those funds to pay down debt early. So it is I think it's a very large number and something to be very proud of. Rather than continuing to tax for that $20 million, you've been very efficient in paying down that debt early through this strategy dating back to 17-18. On the next slide, so this is very small, I apologize for that, but if you can read it, it is looking at your outstanding debt. So what's unique about the debt profile for the district as it relates to the recommendation here this evening is there's 3 issuances outstanding from left to right, and the one on the left and the one in the middle are both callable, which means that the district would be able to apply these excess levy funds against that debt without having to do a defeasance. And as I'll show in the next slide, it's a much more efficient from a cost perspective strategy. But what we find is that the time value of paying down the debt early versus and as well as the higher interest rates on the debt that's not callable, really creates about 3 to 4x savings by applying the funds through defeasance, which I'll show as we get through the analysis. So I just want to highlight that because you do have debt that's callable, and we did analyze that, talked with Elizabeth and the team about, but we really are looking at what we call a max savings strategy by applying these funds to the longest term debt to create the most savings back to the taxpayers here in the district. So again, those two options, prepay existing debt. So as I talked about, 2 of the issuances are callable. You could utilize the call feature available, and it costs $2,000. So it's a lot cheaper of an option. A legal defeasance is funds are placed into an irrevocable trust. They sit there until the call date of the issuance we're talking about. Both are considered spent, which is a key piece for the district, because as you increase spending here, you get more money back from the state of Wisconsin in equalization aid, which offsets your general fund property tax levy even deeper. As I highlighted on the call, on the prepayment, it's $2,000. Unfortunately, the legal defeasance is about $25,000. But when I show you the savings here, it's going to be netting out those. But I do think it's important to understand that there are certainly fees associated with this, and they are different with the prepayment versus the defeasance. So on the analysis, again, apologize for being slightly small, but on the left is your existing debt profile carried forward for 2 of your debt issuances. As we talked about, the recommendation here this evening is to target the longest maturities with the highest coupons. So when you're looking at the $99.9 million, I think, GO from July 8th, 2022, the far left, if you go to the right of the asterisks, you'll see that in 2039, 2040, and above that, we're eliminating 2 years of debt service payment, as well as a portion of a 3rd year. So almost reducing a full 3 years by the application of the additional levy. Bringing that all the way to the right, you'll see that highlighted in blue, it's about $9.6 million by targeting those long-term maturities. If we would have paid off those other ones that are callable, it would have been the $1 million to $2 million range. So again, we feel it's a lot better strategy to continue to chase the most savings for the taxpayers. And then there's a little calculation I'll show you detail where if approved this evening, it'll be just short of $30 million of long-term interest saved. As I talked about the advantage from the equalization aid, this would create a projected $5.7 million to the equalization aid next year. Certainly volatility with that, so take that with a grain of salt. We're just kind of projecting out the concept that you will qualify for more equalization aid, even though that the state didn't increase equalization aid over the biennium that we're currently with it. And then finally, real quick. So the fees are outlined there. So there are certainly players at the table. PMA coordinates, our fee is outlined there. Quarles and Brady's fee is outlined to do all the resolutions and everything. We do have to hire a CPA to validate our calculations. That escrow agent, because the funds are going to sit there, gets paid. And then we do have to pay to split the QSIP on the one maturity that we're not fully defeasing. So just wanted to highlight that so you have full clarity and transparency into the players at the table that make up about that $25,000. Then finally, if approved this evening, as it showed out, line itemed, you will increase your savings associated with debt prepayment or defeasance by $9.5 million, just over $29 million. So with that, be happy to answer any questions. I feel bad I'm not looking over here, but you're like right parallel with me, sorry.
I've just got one general question on this. So when by us prepaying our savings comes at the expense of the investors that purchase these. Does that ever get held against us for future issuances? Does any part of the market or those that are investing in us saying, oh, you know what, Wausau prepays theirs quite a bit, so we're not going to be as aggressive in purchasing new issuance?
I would say absolutely not, because what happens is when we issue debt like the $99.9 million, we tell the market that we want the debt to be callable after 8 years. So they know what they're buying, and they are providing a little bit of a penalty. Let's say 0.25% that you're paying extra on the interest rate for the initial amortization, knowing that some of it's probably going to get gobbled up and called. So this is taking advantage of that premium that we're paying to create the savings that we invested in by putting that call feature in.
So they build that.
They know that
factor into it up front. So we're paying the extra quarter for the first 8 years or whatever.
Yep, exactly.
Got it. Okay.
Yep. And you might be paying that forever if you never have the ability to
Right.
prepay it, right?
Right.
Which some school districts have that ability.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you. I was always curious about that
Yep.
one.
Other questions from board members? It's something that we have been taking advantage of for a long time. It helps save interest payments. Obviously, it also is a good tool to try to keep some consistency in our mill rate as well, so that we're not having big spikes and valleys. So I think it's really a win-win. And you mentioned how spending the money also gets us additional aid from the state, and we've always said, I know your predecessor Bob Tess would always say that's not a reason to spend money, but if it's good anyway, that's sort of a benefit on top of it. So I just don't really see any disadvantage to it. Okay, then I am seeking a motion for approval of the debt defeasance strategy as accepted for presentation and final adoption.
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have a summer learning update. Dr. Rob Phelps and Vicki Christensen will give a brief summary of our summer learning program in the Wausau School District.
Hey, good evening. Thanks for having us. I'm Rob Phelps, principal at Horace Mann, but during summer I am summer learning coordinator, and this is...
Hi, I'm Vicki Christensen. I am the out-of-school learning coordinator for the school district, so G2M and Title I Family Nights and Summer Learning.
All right, so today I'm going to talk a little bit about the morning program. If these slides look familiar, we liked them so much last year that we used them again. If you notice, I'm a turtle. I changed that one on the first one. But all right, so I'm going to talk about the morning program, and then Vicki's going to talk a little bit about the afternoon. All right, so morning program, our elementary program is really a transition to. So we changed the names a few years ago to transition to kindergarten, transition to first grade, transition all the way up through that fifth grade. And we focus on math in the morning, ELA, and then they have encore rotation as well. Similar to the regular school year, just condensed into that morning. Our middle school transition program, I think everyone knows about this, 2 days at the school forest, 2 days at the middle school that they're going to be at next year. Our middle school is a combination of ELA and math intervention for those students who failed, but also a huge part of middle school, and what we cannot promote enough is there are some really awesome